This is the Wake Up Call channel. Welcome to today's show. I covered the Alex Jones saga many times over the years. I did a video even recently about Alex Jones and the meltdown that he had, crying, talking about the feds coming for him. And I've talked many times about COINTELPRO and who the epitome of the COINTELPRO agent is, and that is Alex Jones. But it's very hard for people to see a victim in the spotlight like Jones, who gives obviously some truths, because again, how are they going to gatekeep people if they're not giving out truths to them? How are they going to lure them in? The same thing you see Trump doing. And the best way for them to gain more support is to have them criminalized by people who are clearly corrupt. Now, in the case of Jones, this is a perfect example. I talked about it when this whole case happened with the hook at Sandy. A perfect example of how the government was going to set a new precedent about what you can and cannot say. And this is in place for you and for me. This is the new normal. So sooner or later, this starts right here with this story about InfoWars, which the judge has now approved the liquidation of Alex Jones' personal assets to pay for the victims' families. Remember, we all heard that $1.5 billion number, and everybody out there was laughing, kind of saying, well, Jones doesn't have to pay, he won't pay. But the government is forcing, wink, wink, liquidation on Alex Jones' personal assets, even though Jones is going along with this, because Jones, at the end of the day, is going to gain more support because of this, because civilians are going to see what is happening to Jones, and they're going to like him even more, and they're going to think that more of the information he gives is truth. And there is truth, obviously, to a lot of the stuff that Alex Jones talks about. But InfoWars, they are now talking about the liquidation of InfoWars. That's the precedent that will be set. Because, yes, I don't matter anymore, but anybody out there who is like me or you, who attempts to talk about these things while we get silenced on social media, that's one thing. That's one thing. But the next thing is to start removing websites, like my website, like the website some of you may go on to get your truth information, to get your daily dose of truth, or to share information. And there's obviously more people than just me who have websites who talk about this type of stuff uncensored, because of course they limit us from speaking about it on platforms like this. So now the families of the Hook at Sandy victims, they want InfoWars to be liquidated. Let me read this to you in a minute, but let me first just show you this clip. Because if anybody out there doesn't understand how this works, this needed to happen with InfoWars and Alex Jones. Alex Jones is the face of the conspiracy. The government has made him the face of conspiracy. Not me, not you, the government. Every time anybody hears any of us speak, don't you have somebody that you've run across who has been like, oh, like Alex Jones, or the stuff with Alex Jones? Oh, you sound like Alex Jones. That's done by design. They put Alex Jones out there. They make him despicable. They make him do all sorts of crazy things. He does these screaming rants, these tantrums that he throws. And of course, then when we start talking about these topics, everybody lumps us in with Alex Jones. That's done by design. It's the stereotype that they want in place, which works very, very well on common civilians. All they need is a stereotype, and all they need is a little bit of mind control for them to automatically put us in the same group, right? So Jones and the liquidation of InfoWars is what's coming. But listen to this. If you haven't heard this before, while covering this today, I was listening to some of the interviews from the families after the verdict was done and Alex Jones was, guilty. Listen to the fathers, including everybody's favorite father. He's so famous that he's even in my intro on my videos on my website, of course, who continue. Just the performances that these people put on is laughable, but it shows you how easy it is to convince many people out there. So listen to what they said after he was found guilty. And that's exactly what they say in these words, is what the point was of doing this to Alex Jones and InfoWars, is that a message needs to be sent. And if the message is sent, then in the future, people need to second guess or think about what they talk about. That's right. So if you hear a story on the news and you start questioning it, well, you could get sued for $1 billion.
All I can really say is that I'm just proud that what we were able to accomplish was just to simply tell the truth. And it shouldn't be this hard, and it shouldn't be this scary. I shouldn't have to worry about what my daughters are going to go through when I tell them that it's best if they just tell the truth. Because that's all we did. Every day in that courtroom, we got up on the stand and we told the truth. Everybody that took the stand told the truth except for one.
I have always believed in the goodness of people. And when I first started engaging with followers of Alex Jones back in January 2013, I was looking for the good. And I didn't find it. And I gave up until I decided to fight. And today, with this jury, who I have so much gratitude for listening so attentively, for not just listening, for hearing us. I'm so grateful to them, and this is sending the right message that people are good and that good does prevail.
And going forward, because unfortunately there will be other horrific events like this, people like Alex Jones will have to rethink what they say, how they say it, how long they say it. And for those who want to be Alex Jones wannabes, this trial, this verdict, set a pretty high hurdle in cost in terms of what the cost would be to them.
So gotta love the guy at the end. I mean, Bill Sherlock, no Sherlock Holmes here, but Bill Sherlock talking about this will make wannabes, Alex Jones wannabes. Of course, if this is how the government works, right? This is what they do. So they would consider people like me and you Alex Jones wannabes, right? Because Alex Jones was put in place many years ago when they had him invade Bohemian Grove, which was all part of a government operation to start getting people to join Alex Jones' mailing list to buy his DVD so they can start monitoring people who were investigating truth. And now we've seen what this whole thing has become at InfoWars. And again, they give you some truth. Nobody's questioning that. But how would you ever get gatekept if they weren't going to give you truth, okay? Now, this obviously is frightening and should be frightening for many people out there, but I'm not one of the people frightened by it. Because I know at the end of the day, one of these days, sooner or later, my website will go kapoof, right? Just like my channel. I mean, I'm a new YouTuber, but another YouTuber's channels, it sounded a lot like me. His channels went kapoof, right? They vanished overnight. Billions of views, everything else. Everybody knows the story, but that's not a big deal. The websites are the next big deal, to take down websites. And again, to make you, when you would think about it, right, you'd say, oh, we see civil cases where somebody goes to court, somebody gets sued because maybe they broke somebody's lawnmower and they refuse to fix it. They go to civil court and the judge says, you got to fix that lawnmower, right? But even at the end of the day of those stories, sometimes they don't even end up paying for it, which is what most people thought was going to happen when Alex Jones was convicted, or found guilty, I should say, of this, slander, whatever the actual terminology they used for the outcome of this case was, right? And I mentioned if Jones was actually legit, which at this point, nobody should have to prove to you if Jones is legit or not. But if he was, he would have went into court and he would have said, I question this news story because it looked fake to me. So I would like to see an entire investigation done. I want see the bodies. If I'm going to change my mind on it and you're all upset because of my opinion on it, well, I want to see evidence that it actually happened. Well, that didn't occur, right? That would have got Jones off the case. There wouldn't have been a trial, but that's why it was a charade. It was a fake trial. Okay? So in other words, they want you to be afraid to actually talk. But if these people actually try to sue me, I can promise you that I will have an open investigation. I will turn it into a bigger spectacle than Jones did. And I will stand there like I'm in the movie The Firm, and I will start asking questions. I'll be my own lawyer, and I'll start asking questions. I'll start asking for proof, and I'll bring up things that they'll never bring up or Jones won't bring up. Like I mentioned in the previous video out of Bill Cooper's book about the government creating operations like Orion, where the CIA, creates these types of operations, whether they send out Manchurian candidates or they make up fake ones to persuade the public to want a ban on guns. That's what it's about. It's very simple. Let me just read directly from Bill Cooper's book like I did in the previous video. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for the criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms, using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. This is from, I believe, 1991. This was written. It was the early 90s that this was written, okay? We are in 2024. We've seen the operation really crank up since then. So back to the story and the guy talking about what you can and cannot say. There'll be implications of your actions. And in life, there should always be consequences for your actions. No doubt about it. But you see, what they want is for you to start not talking about things, even if you're suspicious of them, because they want you to be fearful that they'll come after you. They'll sue you for talking. They'll shut down your website. They'll shut down your company just based on your views. And that's what they're moving towards doing. But don't be fearful of stuff like this if you have a pair of balls. If you have a backbone, which the majority of people who listen to my channel do, with the exception of a few trolls who ride the Hershey Highway daily and can't look at themselves in the mirrors, which again, nobody would cry if those people had themselves an accident off the side of a cliff, because the world doesn't need any more people like that. But back to this. When they start telling you Alex Jones wannabes and all this other stuff, this is to get the people out there riled up against people like you and me from talking about any topic that the news tells us is real. There should be never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, ever, anything in place that doesn't allow you to question something that you see on the television set. And for people to think it's out of the realm of possibility, for a government who has gone rogue, who has been rogue, to want your guns. Look no further than countries like Australia. You know what they did there? They did the same thing. And they got everybody they did gun buybacks and everybody gave up their guns. And do you see what's going on in Australia now? Well, every story on the news is about people with knives. Isn't that convenient? That's the next thing the government's going after, to completely disarm their civilians. Because you see what happened in Australia during the lockdown was they literally locked people down and arrested people who went out past curfew. And people started to get a little bit upset about it, but they realized, well, we can't do anything about this. The government is tyrannical, which is why we have the Second Amendment, to prevent tyranny. And if you're not paying attention, there's a lot of tyranny going on with the Republicans and the Democrats. Thus, we have this amendment in place to protect us. So when they create these events at schools, they don't want you to even have it in your thought process that there could be a government behind it, your government, who is trying to do this so that you start to feel emotionally invested in the story, and then you say, I would like to get rid of all guns. Instead of talking about, well, wait a minute. Can we actually find out first? Can we get evidence? I mean, we need evidence in the most basic true crime stories, right? Do we have any type of evidence? Oh, we don't need that. We just told you that it happened. What do you think? We're so sick that we would make it up? Yes, we do think that you're so sick that you would make it up. History shows us this. And so do you by how you act on television and the things that these people say. It's very clear to most people who have common sense that these people are psychotic and sick, and they're mentally unhealthy. And so, yes, we could believe that you be doing. In fact, we do believe that you are. So this sets the precedent for that. And Jones could have prevented that. But he was called upon to do this. This will not be the end of Alex Jones. This will just be the beginning. But here's the article that's out there from CNN. Okay, listen to this. Regardless of whether the judge ultimately liquidates InfoWars, whatever proceeds are gained from a sale of the company will amount to just a fraction of what he owes families of Sandy Hook, right? So let's look at this hypothetically. Let's look at this from the standpoint as if it was real, right? The families are upset. $1.5 billion worth upset? That's a lot of money. I mean, we talk about poverty and feeding third world countries. It's a lot of money to get people whose feelings are hurt, right? Right? They had to make a number so astronomical that it would make people afraid to talk or speak their mind, right? So they say that it's nothing compared to what the people went through. Losing your entire corporation, your whole company, InfoWars. Yeah, and of course it's not. So they go on to say, the parents are pushing InfoWars to be liquidated, along with Free Speech Systems, InfoWars' parent company. The families argued to the court that there is no prospect that the Jones Company could produce a proper reorganization plan under a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which would allow the company to remain operational through its restructuring. Although the trustee should opt to sell the entire company to a potential buyer, the attorneys representing the families expect that Jones' InfoWars empire will be sold off piece by piece, with the proceeds going to their clients. That would make it unlikely, but not impossible, that InfoWars could continue operating, possibly even in a liquidation. The process of shutting down InfoWars could play out quickly. A court-appointed trustee would be tasked with securing the assets and then selling off Jones' media empire, including the website, the studio space, and broadcasting equipment. Nothing the judge would rule on Friday would prevent Jones from spreading conspiracy theories and lies online. It's unbelievable, all right? It's unbelievable. Conspiracy facts, which is what we're all talking about here, okay? Anybody, if you have zero common sense and zero discernment, then you believe the stuff the government and the media are telling you. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. Because if you have even 1%, if you have the littlest amount of self-awareness and the ability to discern, then you could see what's going on, right? But there are people who don't, and these are the same people that are trying to get their kids castrated or get you to castrate your kids because your son picked up a Barbie doll for 5 minutes and was looking at it fascinated, and they want you to castrate your kid because he now doesn't know what gender, right? I mean, it's utter insanity, but that's what we're dealing with here. And that's why it's imperative that nobody backs down, that you keep your backbone, that you're not fearful, like I'm doing right now. I'm not fearful of losing a channel, losing another channel. I don't care. I don't care. I know eventually they will come for the website. But I've said this many times. You come for the website, come for the website. Come for other people's websites. Then the people online, even though you're afraid of us networking online, then they go to the streets. They're not going to cower down, but what they're afraid of is the information reaching people. That's what they're afraid of. And going to the streets, they look at it and they go, well, if these people get together offline and they get a compound or they do something like that, we'll just Waco them. That's their mindset in regards to all of us, right? But if you don't back down, if you actually stand up to this stuff, then they'll cower away. Because if they try to take people like me and you to court, then we bring up actual information. We ask for actual proof. And even at the end of the day, if they give you some type of proof, you're allowed to sit there and say, I still don't believe the story. Okay? There's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing illegal about thinking that something's not real, especially when you had actors playing multiple roles. Especially when that David Wheeler playing the role of a father, grieving father, and then 15 minutes later, they didn't realize, hey, that's that grieving father dressed up as an FBI agent. I could see the mole on his face. Oopsies. Oopsies. Because if Jones actually was trying to not get convicted or be found guilty, he would have brought it up. And I said that all in a previous video. But this is the precedent that's been set. And that's what the wording is right here. That's why I'm doing a video on it, okay? Them saying, look, we need to liquidate free speech systems. We need to liquidate InfoWars. We need to remove it because Jones will keep spreading lies online, right? So they're talking about Elon Musk, how he restored Jones' social media account. It's pretty funny that Jones and all these alt-right guys can talk on those platforms. I've seen people who've showed me videos they've shared of mine or anybody else out there who's talking about the left-right paradigm get silenced on the platform, right? But most people don't even know what the left-right paradigm is. They can't grasp it because they're literally invested emotionally and financially, believe it or not, into this psychological operation. They believe in a fictitious story being told and weaved in their mind about Donald Trump and Joe Biden and running against each other and political parties and causing division. They can't separate themselves from because they think it's their only hope. And it's not. There's many, many more of us than there are of them. But if you remain trapped in the left-right, then there is no hope. So this is what we're getting to. This is what we've gotten to, right? These guys, you heard the interviews talking about what message needs to be sent. What's the message? What's the message? That they can't say that they didn't believe the story that was told? That you were laughing outside 5 seconds after your kid had that happen to him? For the one father, the Duping Delight, he's the president of Duping Delight. And then the other guy's saying, any Alex Jones wannabes out there, right? Any Alex Jones wannabes who are out there who talk about conspiracy, because then you're automatically Alex Jones, right? Well, we'll come after your websites and we'll come after your social media, social media platforms or social media channels or whatever you have on social media. We'll come after that. And that makes people fearful. Instead of going, hey, okay, well, this is what I feel. I don't believe it. Is that a crime not to believe what the television tells you? Well, it hurt their it hurt their feelings. Is that what happened? Their feelings were hurt. They should be more hurt by what happened to their children than actually hurt about people questioning the event. I know I wouldn't give two crap. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how little I'd care if that was me in a position like that. I wouldn't be able to live if I had a child and that happened to them. I wouldn't be able to live. Okay, I mean, we have pets, people out there, right? If it happened to your pet, you wouldn't be able to live. You'd be so emotional about it, let alone your own child. So, I mean, that's where the priorities are, right? All these years later, when they're trying to censor so much, right? It always goes back to that specific place. And that's the only place that really, I mean, you really want to open up a can of worms with that place. You could. The bulldozing. There's like 9 trillion pieces of evidence. You could just show the Wheeler thing in court and say, this is why I question it. And then they could go, oh, well, I kind of understand where he's coming from. Could somebody explain that to me? And then they'd say, well, I mean, I guess I understand why I questioned it, but it's still a real event. Oh, okay. Well, this is why I questioned it. Jones didn't even say why he questioned it. Well, what he thought. He just was like, I was just trying to get clicks. And, I went in there, tried to get clicks. And I was stupid. I jumped on the bandwagon. I heard conspiracies about it. Oh, okay. Well, all of us have presented the evidence over the years and continue to. Okay, that should at least have an open dialogue about this. But you're not even allowed to have an open dialogue. That's the point. This isn't about those people and their feelings. This leads to you questioning the news. If you question it, and there's somebody who they were told is a victim there, you can't bring up government operations. You can't because of their feelings, right? That's how Big Brother works, right? Oh, but Big Brother cares about their feelings. So the judge and all these Masons, they'll make sure that they protect those people's feelings. They're not trying to protect their own arse, are they? Well, that's all that they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so that in the future, if you question anything on their live vision set, well, you'll be criminalized for it and prosecuted. And we're already at a point now, things have shifted so much. Look at the zombies out there. They agree with this. They agree with this type of stuff. Well, no, you hurt their feelings. He should pay $1.5 billion to people who supposedly have their feelings. It's utter insanity. Utter insanity. So you heard it right here, folks. You saw the clips. Obviously, I'm sure some of you have seen them in the past. But InfoWars, potentially going to be liquidated. That's what the families are asking for. And they say there's no prospect that the company could have a proper reorganization, right? So in other words, they want the option for the liquidation is, well, could InfoWars suddenly become a liberal channel or could they suddenly talk about a different topic? And they're like, no, they can't. That's what they're built of. That's what their audience is. Well, I guess we need to liquidate the whole thing and shut down the website and sell off the URL. And then all those people who used to go there to get information, even though, there's tons of gatekeeping going on there, nonetheless, they won't be able to get together online and talk about these topics. And then obviously everybody else who's been out there trying to fight for years has to rebrand or be fully removed. And then they'll have their websites removed too. That's what the plan is. Is anybody out there seeing this yet? Is anybody out there realizing that this government is going to turn on you the same way they've turned on people like me and people out there who listen to this channel? They've turned on us a long time ago. Why? Because we've outed them and out of their operations. But eventually they're going to turn on you too. So stop giving them full power and control over all of us, over what we can say specifically. End hate speech. End government tyranny, because that's what we're living under. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.